In this video, we're going to talk about HR's ownership over processes and our responsibility to get some basic stuff done. In many organizations, we're mired in admin work and we take pride in our customer service, but is that all of the right answer? And then if you want to make more productive and strategic use of your time, where do you start? We're going to talk about all of this and more. That's coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams and the host of HR Shop Talk. It's a show where you get some expert insight into HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen so you can continue to learn from my smart and experienced guests. Today, my guest is Michele Bush. Michele is the co-founder of Elevating HR based in Ontario. And after 30 years in corporate HR, she now coaches HR professionals how to understand, connect with, and contribute to their business. This increases the profile of HR and impacts business outcomes. Hi, Michele.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, thank you for coming on. So let's just dive in. So can you talk about what HR owns and why clarity on this issue is important?
Absolutely. So HR essentially owns the responsibility of providing subject matter expertise and advice and guidance that supports the business direction. So traditionally, though, I think we've been seen as the owner of all those people processes, recruitment and performance management, sometimes health and safety. And oftentimes when HR is seen as owning those transactional processes, that makes it sound like the business isn't responsible for those. So I think what's really important to clarify is that while we can be subject matter experts in HR, we can provide insight and guidance into these areas. It's actually the business that owns the outcome. So I just wanted to use maybe an example just to illustrate. So if we think about recruiting as an example, HR can manage, the flow from the job posting to the interview to the offers, but it's the leadership that actually makes that final decision. And then they own the outcome of their hiring choices. And take it a little bit step further, you think about for a new hire orientation. HR can oversee the orientation or the onboarding program, but it's the managers who really should be handling it, right? Because they know their day-to-day operations best. And it's really critical that they start to build those relationships with their staff right from the very beginning.
So you talked about HR supporting the organization in recruiting and through the phases of recruiting and in, say, onboarding. But that management owns the outcome. What does that mean to how we perform those activities?
So I think it's really important that the HR function understands the business. So in order for the outcome of the new hire to be the most successful for the team, for the department, for the company, we have to be bringing the right people into the right place at the right time. So what can we do sort of upfront in that process to really understand the business, where they make their money, where the technical skills are needed, all of those pieces to make sure that we bring the right people in come from us having to really do that kind of consultative approach with the business up front.
Right. Okay. So does our process ownership vary depending on organization factors like size or culture?
So I think this concept of ownership actually is something that really should be the same regardless of the company. So HR, if we think about it again, what's our role? We're there to consult on developing people processes and procedures, but that doesn't mean we actually have to be the doers of everything. So let's think of another example. So maybe an employee recognition initiative, something like the service awards. So it could be a large corporation, could be a small business, but HR is there to help identify, what are the outcomes of that program? What are the costs? How do we design a service award program? But the employees need to feel like something like that is actually genuine. So it has to come from the leadership, not HR, right? So we have to make sure that that ownership of the impact, again, is actually held by the business. Mm-hmm. And I'd actually even take it one step further and say that because there isn't anything really confidential about a service award program, does HR really need to do it? Could we actually even delegate the administration of that to an executive assistant or maybe even an office manager?
Okay, so When you're an HR admin person doing all that frontline work, you're staying in touch with employees because they come to you for information. And that's a great opportunity for us to connect with the frontline and really know what's going on. So how, like, that's an advantage. How can it be a problem?
Well, first and foremost, obviously HR needs to be approachable, right? We need to be trusted. We have to get out from behind our desk, right? We have to be seen as something other than back office or the policy police. So when an employee shares something with us, when they come to us directly, absolutely, we can get some valuable insight into sort of like levels of engagement or maybe potential problems that might be happening in the business that we can coach on. But where that direct line to HR can become a problem is when employees are actually sent to us. So if they're sent to us by a manager, for example, because the manager doesn't want to, or maybe doesn't know how to address the question or the concern. And it can also be a problem, conversely, if the employees are coming straight to us because they don't feel comfortable talking with their manager. So really important for us in whatever level, whether we're in HR administration, HR management, it's really important for us to make sure that we're encouraging that open dialogue. Let's find out what's happening. And then HR can be the facilitator of the solution rather than the owner of that problem on behalf of those who are involved.
All right. If you found this interesting or compelling, subscribe and you're going to see all the episodes and talk to us. What techniques have you used to enable frontline supervision and management to take ownership over various processes that are often seen as HRs? Let us know in the comment section below. And back to you, Michele. So what's the benefit to the organization when managers and supervisors are owners in the various processes?
I mean, there's all kinds of benefits. I guess the thing that comes to mind sort of to the forefront is that it's subject matter expertise then ends up residing where it makes most sense. And so let me use an example to explain that. So I think about something like technical training. So we hear the word training and then people go, oh, HR. HR has to own the training process. But we could actually be the consultants on the training initiative. How do we establish the return on investment? How do we help a manager deal with a trained employee who maybe doesn't meet those expectations? But really, at the end of the day, the business knows their technical needs even better than we do. So they know their operational needs. It makes most sense for them to be identifying, what's the specific training need? Who needs to be trained and when? Maybe who are the best technical training vendors who are out there? And again, I push things even, that much further each time. And I would even say that they could track their own training. So if they have to respond to an operational audit or, regulatory compliance like ISO, it would be better for them to actually have that information at their fingertips instead of it residing with HR.
How do we help with the extra work that makes for them?
So I think we have to look at where that extra work is coming from. So we have to be conscious about, are we actually too administrative ourselves even? So we don't want to be administrative ourselves and then be trying to delegate or push that administration onto someone else. So let's think about where that administration comes from. Where are we kind of burdened on that tactical level? So maybe take some time to identify what are those administrative tasks that aren't serving the company. If there's a report or something that we're working on that doesn't really resonate with anyone or they don't really do anything with it, do we really need to be continuing with it? So I think that's one thing, is to really think about what are those things that aren't serving the company. So I think automation is something else that's key to helping us be less administrative, not only for us, but also the business as well. So, electronic pay stubs, or can we automate employee self-service so that people can update their home address? I think about things as well. We think about we're pushing something onto the business, but what we could be giving the business is data, access to information. So think about how much information we have that we could actually provide in real time to the leadership. So how many times are you asked, by somebody, how many vacation days do I have left? Yes. And wouldn't it be great, right, if the managers and the leaders could have real-time visibility to the vacation entitlements and the vacation balance? Again, so they think that's, I'm going to push that onto HR because that's administrative. But if they had access to that data, they would actually in real time be able to look at their operational coverage and figure out how many people they have to cover vacations and whatnot for customer needs, et cetera. It takes a whole step out of the process to not have to come to HR.
So if an HR department and somebody who's watching this video is primarily administrative, what steps could they take to become less so?
Yeah. So one thing I would think about is think about things that you are holding on to that you would be okay with letting go of. And I know that's a difficult thing because we want to hold on to the tasks that are important to us, but think
Mhm.
about things that aren't confidential. So maybe the receptionist could be booking your interviews. It could be a
Right.
huge time saver within your department to have something like that handled by someone else.
Mhm.
Good opportunity to do an internal audit. What are some of those things that are really time consuming that
Right.
really have a lot of heavy administration behind them? And maybe those things, for example, answering questions about the benefits or policies. Could we
Right.
really be finding a way to have good information on an intranet or an employee portal somewhere that creates that opportunity for self-service so employees can get answers and not always have to come to us, I think is good.
And final question. So let's say we're effectively getting frontline management to handle requests. And you've given some examples, but what other examples do you have of things we could be doing with this extra time we've created for ourselves?
I would say one main thing would be to have the listeners recognize really how valuable their insight is and how incredibly valuable it would be to use our time to train and educate managers. So we can educate managers on effective interviewing or how to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
If we can be increasing their competence, it increases their confidence. It allows the ability to own and to handle those people related issues to be
Right.
spread out amongst the leadership and HR. And we can all sort of, work together to make sure that that relationship between the manager and the employee that's so critical
Yeah.
is facilitated. So I think that would sort of be my parting note, which is, be confident in your ability as an HR person to be passing on your knowledge and your guidance to actually build up that competence in the leadership group themselves.
All right. Well, thanks, Michele. That was great. So HR is striving to become more of a business partner. I've heard that time and time again. I talked to somebody else about what it means to be a business partner, and a link to that is at the end. I've also added a link to an episode that was based on an article written by Elevating HR. So thanks for watching and see you next time.